Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck isn't about being numb to everything. It's about getting brutally honest about what actually deserves your attention. By the end of this video, you'll understand why chasing happiness backfires, why pain is actually useful, and why choosing your struggles on purpose is the real secret to a good life. Let's break it down, chapter by chapter. Manson opens by explaining that not giving a fuck doesn't mean not caring about anything. It means only caring about what truly matters and letting the rest slide. Most of us waste our mental energy getting worked up over dumb stuff, like a rude comment online, when we should be saving that energy for real problems. He says you have a limited number of fucks to give in life, so the goal is to be more selective about them, not to give zero. Manson also flips positive thinking on its head with what he calls the backwards law, where the more desperately you chase happiness, the more it slips away, because chasing something implies you're missing it. Picture a guy at a party trying way too hard to look chill and confident. The effort itself makes him look anxious instead. The real skill is figuring out your own values and pointing your limited fucks at the handful of things that build a life you actually respect. Manson jokes about an imaginary hero called Disappointment Panda, whose superpower is barging into your life to tell you painful truths, because that's basically what this book does. His big idea is that happiness doesn't come from having no problems. It comes from solving problems. So a good life is really just a string of decent problems you don't mind tackling. Picture two people. One dreams of lying on a beach doing nothing forever and gets bored out of their mind after 3 days, while the other loves the grind of training for a marathon, sore legs and all, because the struggle itself feels meaningful. Manson argues negative emotions like fear or sadness aren't defects. They're useful signals telling you something needs fixing, the same way pain tells you to take your hand off a hot stove. So instead of asking, how do I stop having problems? The better question is, what problems do I actually enjoy having? Manson tells the story of a musician kicked out of a soon-to-be legendary rock band who spent years insisting he was actually the wronged genius instead of accepting it and moving on, which is entitlement in action. He says entitlement comes in 2 flavors, either thinking you're so awesome you deserve everything, or thinking you're such a victim that the world owes you something, and both keep you stuck obsessing over yourself instead of growing. He describes the feedback loop from hell, where you feel bad, then feel bad about feeling bad, then feel guilty for feeling guilty, spiraling deeper instead of letting the first feeling pass. Imagine tripping in public, then spending the whole day mentally replaying it and calling yourself an idiot. When the tripping was nothing, the loop is what ruined your day. Manson also pushes back on the self-esteem movement that told a generation they were special just for existing. Arguing real confidence comes from doing hard things and getting good at them, not from empty praise. Manson's next big point is that pain and struggle are unavoidable parts of life. So the real question isn't how to avoid suffering. It's choosing what kind of suffering is worth it to you. He contrasts a musician who just wanted to make great music with one who only wanted fame and money. And when things got hard, the one chasing pure passion kept going, while the one chasing status quit, because their underlying values were different. This is Manson's idea of a values hierarchy, where some values, like honesty or growth, lead to a good life, while others, like constant validation or avoiding all pain, actually make things worse. Think of 2 athletes, one who values the process of getting stronger, so losing becomes useful feedback, and one who only values winning, so every loss feels like a personal disaster. Manson's advice is to get deliberate about your struggle, picking something worth suffering for, like building a skill or a relationship instead of drifting into random suffering, like scrolling social media and feeling bad about your life by accident. Here, Manson draws a sharp line between fault and responsibility, where fault is about what caused a problem, but responsibility is about how you choose to respond to it. And you're always responsible for your response even when you didn't cause the problem. He shares the story of a survivor of a horrific assault who eventually chose to take responsibility for how she interpreted and moved forward from it. Not because it was her fault, but because that choice was the only path back to control over her own life. Manson warns against what he calls victimhood chic, where people get so attached to their pain that being a victim becomes their whole identity, which actually keeps them stuck. Picture someone who got fired unfairly years ago and still blames that one boss for every failure since, when at some point continuing to blame is itself a choice that's blocking them from moving on. The freeing idea here is that even in the worst situations, you still get to choose the meaning you attach and the next action you take. Manson admits that before becoming a successful writer, he wrote a ton of terrible content that nobody read. And that pile of failure was actually the necessary training ground for eventually getting good. This leads to what he calls the do something principle, where we usually assume motivation comes first and action follows. But it's actually backwards, since taking any small action, even a bad one, generates the emotional momentum that makes you want to keep going. Imagine someone waiting to feel inspired before they start exercising. They might wait forever, but if they just put on their shoes and do 5 minutes, the motivation often shows up after they've already started moving. Manson argues that being willing to fail and fail often is a sign of health, not weakness, because it means you're actually testing your ideas against reality instead of just fantasizing about success. So instead of asking, "What am I passionate about?" a more useful question is, "What am I willing to struggle for, even if I'm bad at it at first?" Manson makes a case that real freedom doesn't come from keeping every option open. It comes from committing to a few things and rejecting everything else. Because a person who says yes to everything ends up shallow and scattered, while someone who commits to specific relationships and goals actually builds depth. Think of someone who tries to date everyone at once versus someone who commits fully to one relationship. The committed person, ironically, ends up with more freedom to grow close and secure, not less. Then Manson closes the book with mortality, leaning on the idea that most of what humans do is an unconscious attempt to distract ourselves from the fact that we're all going to die. Rather than being depressing, Manson argues that keeping death in view actually clears away trivial anxieties, because once you accept you're just a tiny blip in a huge universe, you stop sweating small embarrassments and start focusing on what genuinely matters. That's really the whole book in a nutshell. Stop wasting your limited time and energy on everything, and spend it on the few things worth caring about before your time runs out. If there's one idea to take from this whole book, it's that you have a limited amount of time, energy, and fucks to give. So the good life isn't about avoiding problems or pain, it's about picking the right ones on purpose. If this breakdown helped you see things differently, subscribe for more book summaries that actually teach you something you can use.